just want to do a quick kind of going over our seed starting setup that we have in our basement. I know a lot of you guys are getting ready for your garden, and this is just kind of a way to kind of jumpstart the process. You can get a lot of your garden made in the basement, or if you don't have a greenhouse like us, you can get most of it pretty much done inside this stuff, and you got a jump start so that when you can start planting stuff outside, you're ready to go. The thing that we've set on after several years of trying different stuff, some stuff works, some stuff doesn't, and this is kind of what we come up with to work. So we tried to streamline everything, and we did that by trying to make everything kind of the same measurement. Everything that we use is going to be, I can put it in a link, so if you don't want to search this stuff out on your own, just jump to the description and I'll have links for a lot of the stuff that we ordered online. To start off, you just need some, like a shelf, a nice sturdy shelf. You don't want anything that's going to be real flimsy, especially if you have kids like us. You know, if they happen to climb this, it's not going to tip over and fall over on them, or we have dogs and cats in the house, and so something that's real sturdy. And we opted to go for this shelf. This shelf is about 4 foot wide, and it's about 20 inches deep. And so what works out really well is these mats. We went ahead and we got 4 foot long heat mats, germination mats. Now you don't necessarily need these unless you're doing stuff like peppers, eggplants, loofahs, things that need a very high germination temperature to grow. Otherwise, you can probably get away with just, you know, room temperature stuff. It just might take a little bit longer, but these really jumpstart stuff. They really make stuff happen a lot faster. And so we opted to get the 4 foot long one. They're 4 foot long by 20 inches wide, so they basically fit our shelves. The entire area, surface area of our shelf is covered with heat mat, and that way we not have an uneven germination rates. So for the seed trays, so we have a little bit of a different process here. And we started this a little bit last year, and we liked it so much that we went with it all the way this year. So a lot of the times you see the seed trays, they have the individual little pockets in them. And what happens when you use stuff like that, or what we found to happen, is that when you pull those roots out, those roots go inside of those little plastic things, and they kind of just bind all up in that plastic and the holes and stuff. And so when you pull those out, you don't have as high a success rate when you're pulling those out of the trays and planting them in the ground, because you're destroying the roots just a little bit. So they'll still, we use those for many years. They worked okay, but there was just that I didn't like about them, and also the fact that you're just using a lot of plastic. Okay, so we use these soil blocks, and they just do a whole lot better as far as they use less plastic. So when we're using the plastic trays, so you have to clean them, and while you're doing all that, they get kind of flimsy, they start falling apart. And basically you're wasting a lot of plastic, or we found that we were wasting a lot of plastic. And also the root binding issue, that the roots get bound up in there, and you're yanking them out, and they're getting pulled, the roots are getting destroyed. So we didn't have a high success rate with that. But when we use these soil blocks, what happens is the roots just kind of start poking out of the soil blocks whenever they get too big. And so you just separate those soil blocks, and those soil blocks go directly into the soil. And you're not using any plastic. These trays are heavy duty. We spent a lot more money on these trays, but we can actually put these in the dishwasher. We can spray them off. We can get them, you know, sterilized again and use them again next year. So we're using a lot less plastic, and we have a higher success rate with using these soil blocks with the sturdy trays. So for the next thing, these are just regular lights. For years, we bought the expensive plant lights, and then we started using these last year, and I seen absolutely zero difference in the expensive ones. So these are a little bit cheaper. These are a lot cheaper actually than what we use for like the red lights. So if you're making something that you want to flower, those red lights are necessary. They help things flower along. But as for just growing seedlings, you really just need these fluorescent light bulbs, and these are pretty cheap. And what's really nice about them is they kind of string together. So you can connect these together. As you can see, we can line these up. And there's just not a whole bunch of cords, so not each individual light needs to be on a cord. We've basically just weaved these lights in and out, and so they're on one solid string, and then we just get to plug in one of those lights, and they're all in the same system. And over here we just have a real simple surge protector, and we got one that has a timer on it. And so they sell these about anywhere, Lowe's and on Amazon as well. You can use them for like Christmas lights or whatever. but they work really well for this because we can set them for how long we want the light to be on. And we usually opt for about 15 to 18 hours of light, and that gives them optimum growing conditions. It kind of simulates summer growing conditions, and so they just do really well under that. So everything that we have, including the mats or whatever, can be hooked up to that timer, and so we can shut it off if we want to, or we can leave the mats on, and everything just is kind of worry-free. We don't have to come down here every single day and turn the lights on, turn the lights off, because we would forget all the time. Now they're on a timer. They just automatically pop on when they need to, and they automatically pop off. It saves us energy, so we don't leave them on, and it also makes sure that the plants flourish in case we don't turn them on or we forget to turn them on. So we're kind of in the middle of all this, and so it's not as aesthetically pleasing. It's not Instagram worthy to have all this stuff, you know, flourishing and growing, but I thought it would be a really good idea to get everything while we're in the middle of making soil blocks. We're seeding the trays, you know, everything's set up, but everything's not completely planted, and I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and get that process kind of while we're in the middle so that you can kind of see the process. So we're gonna just take a look at some of the stuff that we got going on already. As you can see down here, we got all of our early season stuff. So as soon as the garden dries up, these are ready to go out there. So we have like broccoli, cauliflower, stuff like that that can take freezing, and we got our onions sowed in here. So these are growing good and they're ready to go out in the garden as soon as I can get it tilled and get it dry. So my wife has some flowers. So these are some snapdragons that we got coming up. And so we got some sweet peas over here, more flowers. Loofahs in the back. Those have a very long growing season, so I'm not going to go through every single plant I have here. I just want to give you guys an idea of like how we're doing stuff, as far as kind of, we didn't plant everything at the same time because we don't want like say the broccoli or cauliflower. It doesn't go out at the same time as the tomatoes and peppers, so we didn't start it at the same time. So we've got these growing, they're growing good, and now we're starting on our peppers and our tomatoes. So I have here a tray that I've been working on, and so we have all this stuff ready. We'll put a little label in it, and this will be basically all different types of varieties of tomatoes. Okay, so I just want to go over real quick, last thing is how we make our soil. So for these soil blocks, it works really well to use peat moss, but to make that go a little bit further, we add some stuff to it. So we add vermicast. So it's basically, we have worms and they break down food and waste and rabbit pellets and stuff like that, and they make just a really nice, really healthy soil. It has a lot of microbes in it and such, and it's also pH neutral, so it's just really good for throwing in the potting soil and giving it all those amendments and nutrients that they get from the food waste. And so we throw some vermicast in there, and then we throw just a little vermiculite, and so basically that just kind of retains the water a lot better and keeps the soil blocks a lot moister. So the next thing that we use is just a couple handfuls of rabbit pellets. Now we do have a problem with the rabbit pellets. They do have a little bit of grass seed in there, so we'll just kind of have to pick that out. It's not that big of a deal, but it's worth it in the fact that it just brings so much nutrients into the compost and gives them so much nutrients. So the thing about rabbit manure is it's a cold fertilizer, or a cold manure, so you can put it directly into the potting soil. You can put it directly on your house plants or your garden, and it's not going to burn it because it's not so high in nitrogen, such as things like chicken poop, chicken manure, and a lot of other manures are hot fertilizers and will actually burn the plants. So guys, that is our setup. I hope that helped you out, because I think growing our own food is going to be a lot more sustainable and a lot better of an idea, you know, with all the stuff that's going on right now.